This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Welcome to the Starlight Ballroom. Hey!
Hello everyone and welcome to Shipwrecked and Comatose, a Red Dwarf podcast. However, because I'm hosting, you probably realise we're not 3 million years into deep space, but we are still in Sherwood Forest, because we are back covering Maid Marian and Her Merry Men Season 1.
Indeed.
And I'm not on my own. I am joined by Colin Jackson Brown. How are you, Colin?
I'm alright, Carl. How you doing?
I'm not, well, that's a lie. I'm injured at the moment.
Hopping Carl.
I'm currently on one leg as I have a very bad sprained ankle. So if I slur at any point, it's the painkillers.
And if I slur at any point, I'm probably just tired.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Waking up in the middle of the night and realising, well, completely forgetting that you've only got one foot, and getting out of bed to just crash straight onto the floor was a learning experience.
Not ideal.
No, but we can still podcast even on one leg.
Yes.
That's how good we are here at the old Shipwrecked.
Where we're going, we don't need legs. Or
exactly.
Something
well,
like
we don't
that.
need both. Right then. So the episode we're here today to discuss is Series 1, Episode 3, which is A Game Called John, broadcast on 30th of November 1989, which is always a bit of an eye-opener for me, because I always forget that this was before the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. Only about a month before the 90s at this point, but nevertheless, before the 90s.
Yeah, the other thing that reminds me of this is, Have I Got News for You? They were just in there before the start of 1990.
Right, okay. So about the same time then.
Yeah, still going to this day. Right then, so we open this episode with possibly the most well-known song in the series history, which is Pancake Day.
If people have only seen one clip of Maid Marian and Her Merry Men, it's this one, because traditionally, people about our age, every single year on Shrove Tuesday, share this video on Facebook. So it's probably mainly a British thing, but I'd imagine some people, being friends with British people around the world, will have seen this clip. So if you've seen a song that goes, it's Pancake Day, it's Pancake Day, it's Pancake Day, that is this particular episode of Maid Marian and Her Merry Men.
Exactly. And I love the only thing I can equate it to is a very dated reference, which is the Mike Hardcastle.
Paul Hardcastle.
Paul Hardcastle,
yes.
Sorry. Which has that he was 19. No, 19.
Yes. It's a very 80s bit of sampling, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the 80s/90s effect of the jarring da-da-da-da-da-da-da as you move as well, which I love.
Oh, the bit on the Sheriff of Nottingham at the end of the song is absolutely beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. So as we begin, while the song's going on, while Barrington is talking about, he actually shows you how to make a pancake. He goes through the ingredients and things like that. But
educational.
Exactly. It's part of the old BBC remit. However, the people of Worksop are making pancakes out of mud.
As they are wont to do.
Exactly. And it's very much like and I think it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they're eating. Michael Palin's eating mud and it's chocolate, but he can't tell what's chocolate and what's mud.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite gross, them eating the pancakes, which you probably might not even be able to get away with on TV today.
Maybe, I don't know. I do love there's some lovely bits of like humour in the song, sort of visual humour, where you've got nice bit of sort of slapstick where Rabies knocks Robin out with his frying pan at one point, and then you've also got the bit where Barrington sings "Don't forget to add a little flour," and instead of the cooking ingredient flour, you've got little Ron dropping a little flour, like the plant type flour.
It's good. There's a lot of like little visual jokes that we'll get over the course of the series that are just really quite fun and nice, and just innocent gags.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's a credit to the writing, because Tony Robinson wrote this, I'm pretty sure, on his own, the whole thing.
I think so. Yeah.
It's a credit to him and his writings. I don't think he wrote a heck of a lot after this. I think this took up his whole time.
Yeah. Time team.
But yeah.
Well, that was more improvised.
Heavily scripted time team.
Yeah. We found something in a big muddy pit. Oh, it's a vase.
It needed more songs, didn't it, time team?
It did. And puns.
So, as this is happening, we see the Sheriff and King John arriving in Worksop.
Yep.
Where we see some of the regulars of the villagers. We see Kelly Bright. I can't remember what her character is now.
I think she's just called Girl. She's only ever credited as Girl, I think.
And we see the return of, what's her name? The stone. The one I decided was a stoner. Gladys the stoner.
Yeah.
And we meet for the first time, well, at the time he's known as Stinker.
Yes.
Who plays a relatively large part in this episode. And he kind of sets the ball rolling, because once the king realises it's Pancake Day, he tells the sheriff to go and get Stinker's frying pan.
Yes.
Why they haven't got a frying pan in the castle, I've no idea.
It's quite weird. I don't think... I mean, we definitely haven't so far. I don't think you often get to see King John going into Worksop.
Yes.
He's normally stays in the castle, sends the sheriff and Gary and Graham out to go and, invade and plunder things from the villagers. Which is maybe understandable why none of the peasants know who King John is.
Well, this is the thing.
Which upsets him quite a great deal.
Yeah, so Stinker says he doesn't know who King John is.
No.
And then none of them know who King John is, even though apparently he does do a speech on Christmas Day.
There's a really nice bit where the sheriff says, but it's the king. And they're all guessing, going, Stephen King?
Yep.
Jonathan King, which obviously hasn't aged as well as some of the others.
Yeah.
And then somebody points out, no, King is his first name. So Gladys guesses King Kong, which is excellent.
Yes.
There's also Stinker, he argues and says, no, the King's William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror reigned from 1066 to 1087. And this is set in the 1190s. So he's just over 100 years out of date there. So news obviously does not travel fast to Worksop.
I have the exact same thing here. It's 212 years later and 5 kings later between William the Conqueror and King John. So everybody between that must have been really memorable as well. So despite the fact they get the frying pan, King John is really quite upset that they don't know who he is, despite the fact the sheriff offers him Angel Delight and peanut butter pancakes.
Well, yeah, they have a little bit of a discussion on what to have on your pancakes. And he says, plain, jam, or do you want to be naughty like me and have Angel Delight with chocolate spread and peanut butter? Now, the Angel Delight can fuck off, but the chocolate spread and peanut butter, I think, could go quite nicely.
Yep.
I think we need to have the obligatory what do you have on your pancakes conversation here, Carl.
Well, because my memory's shocking, I have forgotten at least the last 5 pancake days. But I am very prone to jam.
Right, okay.
Raspberry jam. And chocolate spread. Not with the jam, but chocolate spread, definitely.
Right. See, normally I'll go for a bit of chocolate spread, bit of Nutella, that kind of thing. Bit of, obviously, the classic lemon and sugar. But I have recently discovered, and we'll have this hopefully for the next time I have pancakes, I went down to my nan's in Tenby, and there's a little indoor market where there's loads of different jams and stuff like that. And I got a jar of toffee apple curd, which is fucking amazing. So that's what I'm having on my pancakes next time.
Oof. Yeah, I should really put into my calendar when Pancake Day is, because I always forget.
Or go on Facebook and see all the people sharing the song at the start of this particular episode of Maid Marian and Her Merry Men.
Exactly.
That'll remind you.
I probably did see the John Jules GIF of them doing the song, and then gone, oh cool, and then just not thought to go and make pancakes.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I do remember one year I decided to make savoury pancakes until somebody pointed out that is essentially just a crepe.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, King John threatens that the sheriff can't have any pancakes or any food at all until he is famous.
Yep, so the king's working against the clock now because, as we'll see throughout the episode, he really likes pancakes.
Yes.
So he needs to get the king famous and fast. Meanwhile, in the woods, we witness merry men training.
Yes.
And I've got here, it's not going well.
It's not, but it's beautifully choreographed.
Yes.
They're doing ambush lessons, so there's a little sequence where you've got Marian walking towards the camera, and as she walks, each of the merry men sort of swing out of the trees on a rope, missing her entirely.
The fact as well that you've got, I don't want to say, not Ram John Holder, that's the lad from Desmond's, Howard Lou Lewis.
Yeah.
Who's not a small man, and at this time I don't think not a young man, swinging around in a tree and wiping out Wayne Morris.
Yes.
It's really nicely done.
Yeah. And then you've got that, Marian's pointing out that they'd have... They're complaining because they're hungry.
Yeah.
They're saying that's why they're not very good. And she points out that they've already had 16 pancakes each, which is it's a good target to go for.
Yeah. 16 king-sized pancakes. And despite that, this is the 33rd time they've failed at ambushing. However, they goad Marian into making more by saying she can't make them.
Yes. She points out that she would have got her pancake proficiency badge if her brownie pack hadn't been closed down for armed robbery.
There's a few characters in this that make you go, prequel. Marian, like young Marian, seems like a fascinating one. But more for me, though, the sheriff, because we learn so many different things about the sheriff.
Yeah, there's a great one we learn about him later on in this episode.
Exactly, yeah. So that's a hint for you there. Also, I've got down here that the magic word is actually abracadabra.
Yep.
Rabies forgets to say please, and when asked what the magic word is, he says abracadabra. He's technically right.
Yeah.
I love the way he plays it. I really do. And the fun bit about it is he's playing it like he's stupid, but he's not actually stupid. He's just not as advanced as the others. But
it's almost that he's not on the same wavelength as everybody else, because a lot of things he says are actually quite clever. They just don't quite fit.
Yes.
And he consistently has, some of the funniest lines in the episodes. I think Rabies is a brilliant character.
Definitely. And then we go back to the castle, where the sheriff is serving pancakes to the king.
Yep.
Despite the fact he's not allowed to have anything, and ignoring Stinker, who keeps trying to get his pan back.
Yes.
But it's while he's doing this, he has his idea for how to get the king famous. He needs to invent something.
Yes. As he points out, Noah invented the ark, Archimedes invented the screw, Adam invented the apple, and Catherine invented the wheel. The sheriff orders him to invent something, so he suggests an automatic foot.
Yes.
Which obviously is completely nonsensical. Then he suggests a parachute, which obviously...
804 years before the Wright brothers.
It's quite a good idea if he had something to jump out of. He says, when you're flying along, you can jump out and you won't hurt yourself. To which the king asks, flying along in what?
And again, good ideas, but just out of time.
Yeah. So he then passes him the sugar, which slides off the table, and it gives him the idea to invent a game with pockets and balls and sticks, and the game will be called John.
The way it hits is the sugar somehow manages to go in the king's pocket, so he even does a trick shot with a sugar bowl.
Yes.
Also in this scene, we get the revelation that the sheriff actually wears like a Western sheriff's badge.
Yes.
It's just inside of his tunic, and when he shows it, because the king orders him to invent something, he says, "Oh no, I'm not an inventor, I'm a sheriff." Yeah. He looks so proud at his sheriff's badge that he keeps inside his tunic. And a bit hurt when John dismisses it. So, with this idea of John in mind, Graham and Gary, who are quite late into the episode, really.
Yeah, nearly probably almost a third of the way into the episode, I think, aren't we?
Yeah.
And, this is the first time they appear.
They're sent off to Lincoln to come back with the balls, the cues, and everything else.
Yes, they need a really big order from the ball makers in Lincoln.
And then we fade to them coming back on having watched this series through now for this show, the only road they seem to have.
It's a well trodden path, isn't it?
Yes. Graham and Gary are on their way back, and this is the start of a running joke with them discussing something to each other. They both have one. Gary's has a teddy bear's head on the end, and Graham's has a knitted cover shaped like a tortoise.
Yes.
But we don't know what it is yet.
No, it is a mystery. That little road that we keep seeing, this little pathway, at least it's supposed to be relatively the same place. Because I'm absolutely sure there are loads of roads that you see all over the place in The Walking Dead that are supposed to be hundreds of miles away from each other, and it's blatantly the same road again that they're filming on.
Yeah.
At least this one, it's supposed to be in Sherwood Forest.
So Gary and Graham get held up by the Merry Men, who earlier on, when they were told that they could have more pancakes, they have to rob somebody and bring back some gold, otherwise they can't have pancakes.
Yes.
And they're also ordered to get some camouflage.
Yeah.
So when the Merry Men try and hold up Graham and Gary, they are covered in tree branches, and not particularly effective ones.
Looks quite cool, though. They've gone a bit sort of Green Man kind of thing.
They look like they'd be killed first in a sort of Rambo movie.
I mean, the sort of Green Man side of things is probably why they are mistaken by Gary and Graham for Morris men.
They find this quite offensive.
Yeah.
Being mistaken for Morris men.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
This reminds me that I am from a small village called Riddings.
Right.
And we had an official website for a while, but after a while that got turned into the official Riddings Morris Men website.
Right.
I don't think it's there anymore, but yes, it's that was what Riddings had. It was Morris Men.
Right.
So it's in the blood. It's in the blood.
Are you the Sheriff of Nottingham?
I could be. I just need a badge. Yeah, so they try and hold them up, but they discover they've only got snooker balls, cues, and chalk. So Robin just decides to let them go.
Yeah, he's not very good at this, is he?
No, but I can see your point. Kind of, as like, well, we don't want any of this stuff. Throughout the series, Robin kind of likes Gary and Graham. I think it's
it's mutual, isn't it? I think they all like each other, really.
Yeah, I even think the sheriff's terrified of Robin. We've established this, but Robin seems to like the sheriff.
Yeah, I think he sees him as high society. Basically, he's somebody that hangs around with royalty. So to Robin, that's something to aspire to. Obviously not for the rest of the Merry Men, and definitely not for Marian. There's also a little bit before that, when they're just after they point out that they're not Morris men, where one of them asks, "Oh, you're not beautiful princesses who've been bewitched by an evil wizard and turned into plum trees, are you?" Which sounds so specific that I'm sure there must be like an old fairy tale or something, but I couldn't find it. But that's such a specific bit of imagery.
Yeah, there's a few references that that must be something. Like in the next episode, we'll be talking about how the title is a reference to something.
Yeah,
and it took me a while to realise what it was, but yeah, that is a very specific thing. So we'll have to have a look into that and see what that might be.
We'll do that next week.
So once they let them go, Gary and Graham go, "Oh, you are Morris men, aren't you?" Which infuriates them. Robin there says they need uniforms in order to be taken seriously, and he's got an idea.
He would have. I mean, his origin story at the start was he was a clothes designer.
Yes,
that's the first episode. He was making the King's new underpants.
Yeah. Also, there's I mean, I don't think this ever gets answered, but what happened to his shop? Because he had a very quite lovely shop in the first episode, and obviously now he's a wanted man, and his workshop is still there, presumably, unless it's been taken over.
His workshop in Worksop.
Exactly. There's a tongue twister there somewhere. We'll work on that.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're going back to the castle. Gary and Graham are relating to the sheriff that they've been held up by Morris men, which the sheriff refuses to believe for a very good reason, which is he used to be one himself.
Yes, it's in his blood. Perhaps he's from that place that you're from, that you mentioned a few minutes ago. Though.
He's from Riddins.
Yeah, Riddins. It's East Midlands, isn't it? It's not that far from Nottingham.
It's right on the edge of Nottinghamshire, so yeah, it's really not that far.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a Morris man himself, so he won't have them besmirched in this way. And he describes them as having sort of frilly things and bells, and are they waving a bladder around? And that he was no longer a Morris man because his bladder burst.
So you then got the sheriff giving his sort of almost sales pitch kind of thing to King John, which he does his sort of sales pitch things quite often, I think. Him and Marian are often pitching ideas to people. So I think that's something that Tony Robinson obviously likes to write. So yeah, he's talking about how in that bag is John. Yeah. There's going to be John Hall's International John Championships. John players punching referees, making the front page of the newspapers, which is another thing that's so specific. I felt it must be a reference to a news story that had happened. So I looked it up, and I did find one, but it was Hurricane Higgins in 2007. So I'm fairly certain Tony Robinson is a time traveller, hence Time Team.
That's what Time Team really is.
Yeah, it's a front.
Yeah, I had a look into this as well, and I think there are numerous occasions of Higgins punching referees.
Right, okay.
So I think it's a reference to him, definitely.
Was he still going that long ago? Was he around in the 80s?
I think he was on the tail end of his career, but he was still around a little bit.
Right, okay.
And they do have the the Masters series, because I saw it advertised on telly the other day that the Masters series is coming. It's on like Channel 5 or something.
Fair enough. It's sport, so I have no knowledge of it.
Yeah, I think he's not with us anymore, Hurricane, because he was like a heavy drinking, like 40 a day, smoking, like rock and roll man of snooker.
Snooker players and darts players, isn't it? They're basically pub sports.
Oh yeah, it's been interesting watching darts try and clean up that side of things because of the not the 9 o'clock news sketch.
To be fair, that's probably where most of my knowledge comes from. That and the Mitchell and Webb sketches.
Yeah.
That's a bad miss.
Yeah.
That's my general knowledge of sport comes from things outside of sport.
Yeah, it's that I know that caused like the Darts Federation, and that came out in the 80s.
Yeah, early 80s, not 9 o'clock news was, about 82, 83, I think.
Yeah, that caused them to be like a bit self-conscious about their image.
Right.
And apparently it's not been like that for years, but people, when you go darts, they go, oh yeah, big lads boozing and throwing darts. But yeah, probably it's not like that anymore. Yes. So the sheriff is outlining the game to the king. However, when he shows it to the king, it all goes wrong immediately because the balls won't stay on the table.
Yes. So they refine the idea and decide that they need to go and get some a tablecloth and some cushions to keep the balls on the table.
Yep.
And then you get Stinker pointing out, because he's just asked for his frying pan back, points out that his name is not Stinker.
Yep, and he's getting annoyed about it now. He's not Stinker. Also, do you remember who comes up with the idea of pockets and cushions?
I don't actually.
It's Gary.
Right. Cool.
So Gary saves the day by going, well, you could put cushions and have pockets, and the sheriff runs with it because the king's not impressed.
Yes.
So yeah, Gary saves the day, but this does mean that they've got to go back to Lincoln, which is back on the road, which is a heck of a trek. And
yeah. So I looked this up actually. So if they're going from Lincoln to Nottingham via Worksop on foot, actually no, even in the car, it's an incredibly convoluted route. In the car, it's about a 30-minute it's about a 30-mile detour.
Yeah.
So that's going to take you quite a while when walking, particularly when carrying lots and lots of stuff that you have bought.
Yeah, it's a trek, which just shows how everybody's in fairly good shape.
Yeah.
And except for the king, because the king doesn't walk anywhere.
Apart from to Worksop at the start of this episode. And he's not going to do that again in a while because people didn't know who he was.
Also, this is what gives Robin time to do what we're about to see, which is on their way back. Again, we've got Gary and Graham discussing whatever it is, and I've got on my notes here, because they're talking about things like they get them in the morning, and it goes floppy.
Yes.
And I wrote on my notes, it's sounding more and more like Willy talk.
It is, and it's like as close as they can sort of get away with it.
Yeah. Until the sheriff bursts the bubble, basically, and they're talking about hot water bottles.
They are.
Which is good, which I can imagine some of the lawyers at the BBC were like, oh, thank God. Oh. But once again, they get jumped by the Merry Men. This time, as I've written it here, fabulous tartan.
Yes. Nice different coloured tartan uniforms for each of them.
Yeah, and we're not talking like the traditional tartan colours of like, royal blue and deep reds. No, we're talking like purples, gold,
pink,
very, totally going to fade into the forest in these. I believe Little Ron's got a sash, and they've all got the, what you could call the stereotypical Scottish supergran hat on.
Yeah. Okay, that is a way better name. I think the proper name is Tam O'Shanter hat, which I was about to say. But no, forever it shall be known as the Supergran hat, in memory of Supergran, who died, the actress died the other day, which I was amazed she was still alive.
I was as well, yeah.
Yeah.
It made me wonder how old she was when she actually did Supergran.
I looked it up. She was in her early 60s when she recorded Supergran.
Bloody hell.
So she was in her 90s, basically, when she's just died.
If you're a younger person and you don't know what we're talking about, if you search for Supergran on YouTube, and especially the theme tune...
Yes.
As it's sung by Billy Connolly.
Indeed.
And it's an actual... cracking song.
It's a great... I think it was you mentioned it the other day. It was either you or somebody else mentioned that Billy Connolly did the theme tune.
Yeah.
And I used to vaguely watch it when I was a kid, but it's not something that I particularly remembered. But then I went to YouTube and watched the theme tune, and I was, absolutely remember that. It was straight back.
Yeah, it's a banging theme song.
Definitely.
So, at the sight of this bizarre tartan-clad group of people, the sheriff is actually completely unfazed.
No, it's absolutely brilliant. He describes. He says, "Are you mad? I'm here with my guards who both got GCSEs in killing, maiming, and chewing people's heads off," which is a beautiful turn of phrase.
I kind of get the feeling that Gary and Graham got it in theory, but they had no intention of putting it into practice.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, so the sheriff points out that he's frightened of nobody until Robin then jumps out, to which he screams, points out that Robin Hood is the fiercest bandit in England, and offers them Gary's gold tooth.
Yes. Now, it has to be said, while we've mentioned what Barrington, Rabies, and Little Ron are wearing, Robin is wearing the most extravagant of all, because of course he is. He's got thigh... I thought this was all in one, and then I looked a bit closer. He's got, like, what you could class as booty shorts on.
Yes, you could.
Thigh-high boots that are all covered, like just all the way up, like some like UFC fighters have with kick pads, where they've got a cover so it goes like right up to the knee.
Yeah.
A cape wrapped around his shoulders, a giant super grand hat, and I think he's got a regular sort of top on underneath, but he looks stunning.
Well, he's got his sort of main top is green tartan, but then the rest of it is pink and purple striped. So it's an interesting colour scheme. Not entirely sure it works, but then I don't know enough about fashion as Robin Hood, so you know.
Yeah, he looks fantastic. It's rewatching this. I did not remember this at the time, but watching this now is how handsome Wayne Morris actually is. Like, the hair looks great. You could have put him in Robin of Sherwood, and he'd have been fine.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad he was in this though, because that's too serious.
Yeah,
and this is better, Mark. This is way, way better than Robin of Sherwood, Mark Adams.
Oh, you've called down the thunder.
I know.
So, yeah, so they offer up Gary's gold tooth because they haven't got anything. And, you know, they're telling the truth, they haven't got anything. They've pretty much got the same as what they had last time, but with cushions and green felt.
Yeah.
Robin and the sheriff bond over being starving.
Yep. So Robin invites him round for pancakes.
Yes, but he blindfolds them first.
Yeah, well, Robin doesn't. Robin doesn't think of that at all. It's Little Ron.
Yes.
He has to get the credit there for that, because he doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah, Little Ron is the one who seems most dedicated to being a bandit.
Being a badass, actually. That's what he is.
Barrington's just kind of there to hang out with his friends, I think.
Yeah.
And so is Rabies. But Little Ron wants to, you know, come up with something and be a kick-ass bandit.
Yeah.
So they blindfold them, and as we go back to camp, Marian's put on a really quite nice spread, actually.
Yes, tablecloth, jugs made out of leather and stuff on the table.
Yeah. We get what I refer to as the Scudder gag.
Yeah.
The bowl of is it the bowl of sugar's missing?
Yeah, the sugar bowl is missing, so she goes and shouts up at a tree, and it turns out a squirrel has stolen it, which throws it back down.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is exactly like, you know, Rimmer and Lister telling off the Scutters. I hadn't even thought of that, and you're absolutely spot on with that.
Yeah, and they even throw the spoon down as well.
Yeah.
And we get a fourth wall break where she sort of looks at the camera and tuts, like, squirrels. While this is going on, Robin brings back the sheriff, who doesn't care about the bandits because there's pancakes.
A big pile of pancakes. It's a good amount of pancakes. I approve.
Marian's not very happy.
Understandably so.
Yeah. You've brought our deadliest enemy and his henchmen with their GCSEs in biting people's heads off back to our top secret, mega secret lair. She's quite happy, though, that Little Ron did blindfold them.
Yes. She has an idea. She's annoyed that he's getting a free meal.
Yeah.
but then has an idea that actually they didn't tell him it was free.
Yes.
So they decide to treat it as a restaurant and then bring him a bill and charge him. The bill is £142.88. So, you know when we do the Smegazine episodes and we look at how much the T-shirts are and try and work it out in...
today's money.
You know, in the money of today.
Yeah.
So, I did a bit of research, and unfortunately the retail price index only goes back to the year 1500. So we're about 400 years out. But back then, £142.88 was over £6,000.
Oh, my God.
So I would make a conservative estimate of this being sort of £8,000 or £9,000 that they're then trying to charge him for the pancakes. Which is, they'd better be bloody good pancakes for that.
I get a feeling they must have worked it out somehow because it's a very specific number.
In comedy, I think specificness is... If they said £150, that's not as funny as £142.88.
True. It does remind me back in the day, I think it was TFI Friday, and they had Michael Palin on.
Right.
And
yeah,
at the start of it, I thought Chris Evans was just being a dickhead, but...
I mean, he probably was as well.
He was. This was during his I'm going slightly insane years, I think. But he was he was talking to Michael Palin, and he just goes... what's a funnier number? 14 or 99. And he went, 99. And there was a load of quick fire questions like that. And I realised it was actually quite a cool thing of Michael Palin going, no, 99's a much funnier number because you can do it in this voice and sort of like that. And, and 12 you can't really do anything with. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the sheriff's a bit of a Karen and wants to speak to the manager.
Yes.
And he's really confident about this until he realises who the manager is.
It's Robin.
He immediately goes to the old standby.
Gary's gold tooth.
Of Gary's gold tooth.
But then points out that there's some green fabric that they can have that coordinates with the trees.
Yes. Yeah, I think Robin works that out, doesn't he, that they could use this for uniform. Another sign of Robin actually getting better as the show goes on. And then I've got here, montage in all capitals on my notes.
Oh, it's great. Sewing montage. So you've got Graham trying and failing to thread a needle that it keeps coming back to. There's a beautiful bit where you've got each of the merry men lying down on the green fabric and them drawing a chalk outline to then cut it out to the right size. But obviously when Barrington lies down on it, his dreadlocks are all spread out. And then when they cut through it, you realise that they've cut a load of his dreads off as he sits up.
Which I thought was like, oh my, I don't remember that I thought it was, he lost his dreads. Until you realise when he gets up, he's got many dreads left.
Lots and lots of dreads, yes.
Lots and lots of dreads. I'm sure it's a wig.
Yeah.
On John Jules. And the more I think about it, it must have been a bloody hefty wig.
Yeah, there's probably a bit of weight to it, I'd imagine, yeah. You've also got there's a couple of nice little bits where Little Ron and Rabies get their uniforms mixed up. So Little Ron's got a massive uniform holding and Rabies is holding a little tiny one up in front of him. And then you've got this beautiful little silent film bit where they're all walking behind a tree, and as they walk out the other side, they're changing to their new uniforms. It's almost like a silent film, but at the same time, like a Monkeys video.
Yes, that's what. Yeah, it is very like with the sort of the jump start cuts and things like that. It's very much like that.
But then you finally get them there in their green uniforms with the proper Robin Hood hats, which is it's the point of this episode. You know, you've got how the band got together for the first episode. Then the next one, you've got the main big part of the legend with the turning up at the archery competition in disguise. And then this one, they get their episodes. Because the first series is it's the only one that's got a story arc, because it's them establishing the bits of the legend that they are actually going to go with.
Yeah, this makes me wonder, because when we talked about Spit on Ground, A Prince Among Men, we were talking about how a lot of shows at the time were always given a 2-season order.
Right, okay.
And it makes me wonder if they were given a 2-series order and Tony Robinson went, right then, first series, everybody's established.
Yeah.
And then second series, we can go into like story of the week kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense, definitely.
I always have this kind of rose-tinted look about sort of kids' TV in the 80s and 90s of it was a bit more grown up than what you get now.
I think so.
Because you had more drama stuff there. Like you had, things like Children's Ward, and like Dark Season.
I don't know if they necessarily had. There may still be stuff like that around, but I don't know yet because my daughter's still only 7, so she would get absolutely bored with stuff like that. Dark Season is my favourite kids' TV program of all time, that's a really early Russell T Davies show, who obviously went on to do Doctor Who and lots of other awesome stuff.
And another big one's like Press Gang, which was Moffat.
Yeah.
And that's what beat Maid Marian for the children's BAFTA.
Yeah, fucking shouldn't have.
Yeah, but it just feels like a lot of this was written like, and I think this is another thing was like the popularity thing, like Horrible Histories.
Yes, this was definitely a precursor to Horrible Histories, which is the same level of quality. Horrible Histories is absolutely fantastic.
It's like you get comedians writing for children and not treating them like babies, essentially.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good stuff.
Well, the best, I mean, there is still stuff out there like that, and has been over the last few decades. About 10 years ago-ish, there was a program called I'm Sorry I've Got No Head.
Yes.
Which was a sketch show for kids that Marcus Brigstock was one of the main people on it. It seems to be really hard to find anywhere at the moment, because I wanted to show Elodie some of that recently. But then you've also got there's things like it sadly doesn't exist anymore because CITV got wiped out, and they, ITV got rid of all their children's programming. But there was a program called Make Away Take Away, which was basically a modern version of Art Attack.
Oh,
but it was presented by Beck Hill, because she's absolutely fantastic comedian who she does lots of like what she calls paper puppetry, where she has like a flip chart and then makes she does lots of things with like misheard song lyrics and stuff like that. But she did an absolutely brilliant series of, I think she did 2 series of Make Away Take Away, where it was all the art stuff, but it was really funny as well.
Just looking, it is on ITVX.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's obviously a kids show aimed very much at kids, not so much at adults. But when I've watched it with Elodie, I've always really, really enjoyed it.
Cool. That's good that they are still making things like that, because...
Well, they were, but...
Don't
get me wrong, there is a lot of absolute shite still that she watches.
Yeah.
But there's some good stuff too.
Yeah, that's good. Well, getting back to where we were, so we've just had the montage where the sheriff and Gary and Graham have made the uniforms for the merry men, and they let them go. And I've written here, completely negating the blindfolding of them in the first place.
Yes, yeah, they do not blindfold them. They let them find their own way out of the hideout, but saved from certain death at the hands of Robin Hood, but not necessarily certain death at the hands of King John.
Yep, I love that bit, because it's a Gary and Graham line.
It is.
Showing that they're not completely daft.
And at that point, they are cleverer than the sheriff, yeah.
Yes, because they realise that they're in massive trouble. The sheriff says he's got an idea, which takes us back to the castle, where the sheriff's ready to be turned into a Chinese takeaway.
Yes, he brings in a massive pile of bean sprouts, because earlier on he got mentioned that he'd be turned into a spring roll.
Yes.
As a sort of it's almost a throwaway line earlier on, and then he brings this massive bowl of bean sprouts.
Stinker brings it all in, and he starts eating these bean sprouts. However, just as he's about to, stuff himself, essentially, Stinker recognises the king.
Yes.
Which he should do, because he's been in the castle the whole time.
Yes. He walks in as if it's the first time he's seen him. He's like, oh, hold on. You're that bloke on the throne. You're the king, aren't you? I've always wanted to meet the king. And then goes and gets the rest of his family.
Yep. He gets the peasants to come in. And then I always like in shows like this the adaptation of a modern day thing in the past. So the king leads them all off to get his portrait taken.
Yes.
On little things that they can have, and he'll sign them for them.
Yes. They get the court painter to make little portraits, and you can take them home and pin them up on your bedroom walls.
Exactly. So they all go off to do that. And then the sheriff reveals he bribed Stinker with the promise of giving him something to make him rich and famous, which Stinker is really, really up for.
Yep.
And he's given all of the Game Called John materials.
Yep.
Which he excitedly rushes off for, which I remembered wrong. I thought initially he was annoyed that he got this, but he's really chuffed to get all this stuff.
He is. He almost looks a bit sort of in awe of it. And they point out that they can call it Stinker if you like, and it'll make him rich and famous. And he's very happily says, thank you very much. And then what's been building up the entire episode, of course, Stinker is not his real name. That the sheriff says Stinker's name's going to go down in history. Gary and Graham point out that his name's not Stinker, it's Snooker.
Yep. And then, of course, the closing line, where the sheriff laughs, in a really lovely laugh, I thought.
Yeah.
Who's going to play a game called Snooker? Credits, Marian.
Snooker, by the way, is played by Robin Chandler, who has not done much else. He was in one episode of Bergerac, and I think there might be one or two other things that he's done over the years. But he seems like a really good dude. Lots of left-wing anti-Tory stuff on his Twitter account. So big up Robin Chandler.
Yes. Robin Chandler, who plays Snooker, has gone on since to run a place called the Impact Factory.
Yes, I saw
which was founded in 1991. So not that long after this, only a couple of years. And is still going to this day. Professional personal development work is how they use it. So it's run by Robin Chandler and a psychotherapist. And they work with helping bring people out and learn sort of business methods and sort of bringing themselves out of themselves and training them for business and all that kind of thing.
I'd like to think that every now and again they get somebody turning up going, hold on, aren't you Snooker? That'd be great.
Because I don't think this is his last episode, is it? He does turn up again.
I think so. We'll have to look out for him in future episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the last one where he's the
prominent, yeah.
The lead peasant. Actual Snooker, by the way, was named by Neville Chamberlain, of all people. It was after snooker was a derogatory term for first-year army cadets, apparently.
Yes, I had a look into this as well. It was invented in the 1870s, and it was devised from two types of pool.
Yeah.
A game called Black Pool.
And then a game called Liverpool.
Which involved potting balls in a designated order.
Right.
And a game called Pyramids, which involved 15 red balls in a triangle, and they mashed them together and invented snooker.
It was indeed a mashup. Cool, that's pretty much it then, isn't it, for that episode?
Yeah.
Apart from, we need to get Elodie's opinion on it.
Oh, yes. A special consultant that we have for this series.
Yes.
Let's hear from Elodie.
Yeah. Okay, back here again with Elodie, my 7-year-old, nearly 8-year-old daughter, to get a modern child's perspective on Maid Marian and Her Merry Men. We've just watched Series 1, Episode 3, a game called John. Elodie, what was your favourite bit in that episode?
My favourite bit, I think it was the bit at the start when they were singing about the pancakes.
when they were singing "It's Pancake Day"?
Yeah.
Can you do it for me?
Pancake day. It's pancake day. It's pancake day.
That's the bit. That's probably the most famous bit of Maid Marian and Merry Men. What do you think was the funniest bit of this episode? Were there any bits that particularly made you laugh?
Don't know, really. I think it was all a bit funny, really.
Do you think it's as funny as the other episodes that we've watched so far?
I think it's actually a bit less funny.
Okay, so it's not your favourite out of the ones we've watched. Do you think that's because some of the jokes were ones that you didn't quite understand? Because I had to explain to you what Morris dancers were, didn't I?
Yeah.
They've not really held in the public consciousness of 7-year-olds in 2024.
Yeah, because it was made for older time than that.
It was 1989 when it came out,
Yeah.
so I was your age when this was on. So, what did you think of the Merry Men's new outfits, the ones that Robin made at the start in the middle, where they were all colourful?
Like, I mean, no.
You wouldn't. You don't think I should get that kind of clothes and wear that?
No.
No. Okay. I mean, I've bought you some clothes like that for your birthday.
No. Spoiled the surprise.
So, other important questions based on this episode. What's the best pancake topping? What would you have on a pancake?
Lemon and sugar.
Lemon. You always want blueberries and Nutella and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
don't just want lemon and sugar. You've totally made that up.
I also like lemon and sugar.
If
on
you could
my
have
chocolate.
anything in the world on a pancake, what would you go for? Just be really imaginative. What would you have on a pancake?
Pizza.
Pizza. Okay, you'd have pizza on a pancake. You're weird.
I wouldn't.
And then one other question. You go to brownies.
Yeah.
Has your brownie pack ever been in trouble for doing armed robbery?
No.
Are you sure?
No.
Is that just because you haven't been caught?
No.
Okay, well, tell it to the judge.
No.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Elodie. Say bye to the people.
Bye. Goodbye. The end.
Well, strong opinions there from Elodie.
Yes, and or not, as at the point of this recording, I've not recorded it with her yet. So we'll find out when I've done that and put it in there.
So, Colin, what's your overall feel on this episode? I think it was a very strong episode. I mean, not just because of the pancake day bit, but it's just a very strong episode overall.
I think it's overshadowed by that intro, which is absolutely fantastic. I hope that there are lots of people who have seen that little start bit and then carried on. I think it's probably one of the most watched, I would imagine. Actually, no. How the Band Got Together has got way more views on these particular YouTube videos. So most people watch the first one and then, for some reason, don't carry on. They're strange people. Perhaps they watch it on other YouTube videos, or perhaps everyone's got the DVDs like I have.
True. So I say we have watched this on YouTube. If you do want to watch along with us, you can look for Owen Davis, Davies, or if you do type Maid Marian and her Merry Men into YouTube, it is all over YouTube. But Owen has done an HD AI remaster.
And it looks great.
Having a look through his channel, there's some really good stuff on there that he's done the same treatment to. Ultraviolet, which is a show me and Mark love, which is the Idris Elba late 90s vampire series. Also, he's done all of Smack the Pony, which is an excellent sketch show.
Yeah.
He's done a load of TV movies. He's just done Casanova, the David Tennant, Russell T. Davies one.
I remember watching that. That was quite good.
Yeah. And, most excitedly, he's done all 3 series of Banana Man.
There's also the storyteller on there, the Jim Henson thing.
Yes.
So
also, if you want something a bit more adult, there's like Stephen King's The Tommyknockers and things like that. So,
that's great. I used to love that.
Yeah. Go check him out. I've given him a subscribe because he's doing some interesting work there. So, yeah, go and give him a look and see if there's something you like. But anyway, wrapping it up for us, Colin, where can people find you on the internet?
So I've got 2 other podcasts, Free With This Month's Issue and We Dig Music. We've just recently put out an episode of Free With This Month's Issue with the comedian Robin Ince, which I'm really, really proud of. That's a podcast about old free CDs and tapes from music magazines. And We Dig Music is a sort of more broad thing about music where we each episode, me and my 2 co-hosts, Tracy and Ian, choose a year and have 10 songs each from that year and then sort of battle it out to, go for whatever the best songs are. And you can find both of them on wedigpodcasts.com or by searching, because, that's how you find podcasts. You listen to one.
And you can find me with links to things I'm involved with, all the wrestling shows I'm on, and my socials at Linktree. And if you search for I Am Mr. Carl, and it's the unabbreviated MISTER. Elodie hasn't got any social media yet, thank goodness.
We'd be in trouble if she did, absolutely.
Yeah. She'd have launched her own podcast.
Definitely.
But until next time, until we're back in the forest, heck.
Are you Morris men?
How dare you?